Good morning, everybody. My name is Camila Olsen. I'm the head of the political sector and the cultural section here at the Embassy of Brazil in Copenhagen, which also is the Embassy of Brazil to Lithuania. And this is the last week of our ambassador and the head of our trade section. So I'll be the deputy, well, not deputy, I'll be the charge of affairs, in charge of the embassy and of the trade section for the time being. And all this change, which is quite common in embassies, is one of the reasons why we could not come to Lithuania today, because we are exactly in the week of transferring responsibilities, and a new ambassador will come in August, but for the time being I'll be in charge of all sections. So first of all, we'd like to excuse ourselves for not being able to be in Vilnius today. I hope that this video conference is a small but interesting collaboration that will help you in your endeavors, in your mission to Brazil. So the first thing that I wanted to say was this. The second thing is I'm not in charge of the trade section normally, and I would also very much like to we have a technical assistant in charge of trade. She is also in a seminar for 3 days today. So any very specific questions that you have that I'm not able to answer, I'll take them in and we'll answer. If you leave your email addresses or the email address of the Chamber of Commerce, we'll answer in a later date. We can also give you guidance to other ways of getting answers if that's the case. But I will start with something which is not exactly trade. You may be aware that in the past 2 or 3 weeks there have been a lot of developments in the streets of Brazil. The international media has been showing it somehow in comparison with what's happening in Turkey as well. And since you are going to Brazil, or you are interested in investing in Brazil, you may be also interested in understanding a little better what's happening and what are the possible consequences of what's happening, including in terms of economics and investment. As a Brazilian citizen, I'm actually quite excited about what's happening in Brazil. Of course, the international media and the media in general will show the worst part of the events, the eventual violence that happens. But the good part of it is an extremely democratic expression, which is very important in my country. Brazil was a dictatorship, had a dictatorship for 25 years, a violent one, and we entered our democratic process in 1985, and our first third democratic elections. Yes.
Sorry, we do not hear.
You cannot hear me?
Now we can hear.
Okay. We had a return to democratic elections in 1989. So our time as a democratic country is more or less similar to your return to independence. It's not a very long time ago. And it's a very long process. So what's happening in the streets in Brazil is a very important step in the transition to true democracy, which is not just elections, it is all the rights of the people. So it's very much a political part of a political process, part of the political development of the nation. And I can only say that this is positive. We don't know the outcome. The analysts don't know the outcome. The journalists don't know the outcome. It's a spontaneous movement, but most of us believe that it's extremely positive that the people have a say in the political future of the country. So I don't believe that there is any negative consequence for the economic stability or for the economic future of Brazil. Quite on the contrary. After all, citizens are also consumers. And it's important that they are happy, that they believe in the future, because when consumers are optimistic, the economic outlook of the whole country is a lot better. But there is nobody knows where this movement is going right now. For example, there is even a talk of a referendum and changes in the constitution. They are all political changes. They have to do political reforms. So let's see where this will end. But talking about the more specific things in the financial and the economics outlooks, Brazil has stabilized its economy since 1994, and it has extremely sound macroeconomic numbers in reserves, public investment, control of inflation. All of these numbers have been quite stable and extremely positive, especially for the last 8 years. And even with the financial crisis internationally, none of these indicators have gone significantly down. So it's quite a stable economy, had a slow growth in the last 2 years due to normal bottlenecks, which everybody knew about, not the international media, but we all knew that we're going to hit these bottlenecks. We call it growth pains. Sometimes you grow and then you hit bottlenecks and you have to solve them. But Brazilian investors, for example, they are quite calm. They keep on investing normally, and there's a lot of opportunity for investments in Brazil. I had some numbers here, but since I cannot show them to you properly, I will leave some sites that could be of interest to you, and I'd like to talk about 2 of them, which I think are quite of interest. The Brazilian government has a site called Brazil Global Net, and the Brazil Global Net is a site where you can contact potential Brazilian partners in all sectors, both for imports, for exports, but as well for investments. They will tell you, you can search through the name of the product, but also through the HS code, the Harmonized System Code. In Brazil, we have a code which is slightly different from the HS. It's called NCM, and it's because we have this Mercosur, this regional market, and so the harmonization was within this regional market. But it's quite simple. It's very similar to the HS code. So you can register for free. It doesn't cost anything. This is an official site of the Brazilian government, so it's quite safe. And once you register, you have access to all this information, both guides and manuals about how to invest, legal aspects, the different regions of Brazil and what they offer, and also you can go sector by sector looking at potential partners in Brazil. And they also have, you can download things about trade fairs, specific trade fairs year by year, and how to contact them as well. So this is one site. I'll give you the name later, but it's quite important. The other site that I'd like to offer is the site of our embassy. This site is in English, the other one is in English as well. And in our website, you will find information, for example, about visas, both business visas, but also working permits. How normally working permits are searched from within Brazil. So if you establish yourself as a company or you have a partner company in Brazil, this entity will be the one talking to our Ministry of Works, which will issue an allowance or a permit, and with that the embassy can then issue a working visa for the foreigner intending to go work in Brazil. But all the specifics of these visas requirements are in our website. So I will tell them. I'll tell you right now, but I also sent this information to the Chamber of Commerce. So if it's difficult for you to write this down now, we'll be able to confirm this information at a later date. I'm open to questions. So if you have any particular questions, anything specific you'd like to know.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one question. Egidijus Slaughter from Enterprise Lithuania. Your suggestions, if I want to make business in Brazil, I want to export my goods. Your suggestions, what should I do?
You want to export what products? I'm sorry, which product?
No matter what products. What should I do if I want to sell in Brazil?
Well, I think you're going on a mission. So the first thing is to do an exploration mission, or you could you could look at our trade fairs, and there is a catalog of trade fairs in this website that I told you. Trade fairs is an excellent way to look at competitors, at partners, and talk to them to see what the possibilities really are. So I would advise, I think it's in terms of cost benefit, an excellent opportunity to go to a trade fair. There in one space you meet thousands of potential partners. The big fairs in São Paulo are the biggest in Latin America. So not only you access the Brazilian market, but often you're able to talk to partners in the other Latin American countries in one space. And I've been to some of these trade fairs, and they are impressive. They are really big and quite serious. And also there in these trade fairs, not only you meet partners, but government officials from the states, from the different regional states of Brazil. So if you have specific questions about how to settle, how to start, they are there present as well. So sometimes I think there's an excellent opportunity, easier than having to do a long tour through several states and talking to several officials in a short time. So that is one thing I think you should explore. Look at the trade fairs and see if they meet the niches you're working in, and then you can try to organize yourselves for those particular dates. I will show you the website later, from where you can download the whole guide with the trade fairs. In general terms, I think it's a good idea to have a Brazilian partner of sorts. It depends on the size of your company, of course, and the kind of trade, the kind of sector that you are working in. But to begin with, to understand the market and to have open eyes to who are your competitors, who are your potential consumers, who are your suppliers, having a Brazilian partner is an important beginning, even if later on you're able to operate in the market by yourself. Also looking at legal aspects of how things work in terms of taxes, in terms of labor laws. It's interesting to have a partner in Brazil. This partner does not need to be your partner in trade. It can be a legal office. It can be someone that will do open you for all the specific legal aspects of functioning in Brazil. But again, being in trade fairs will help you contact these potential partners. The other important partner, of course, is the newly opened General Consulate in São Paulo. I think of Lithuania in São Paulo. I think one of the besides, of course, helping the Lithuanian community in São Paulo and doing the consular part of the work, which is visas, permits, and birth certificates and passports. But of course, I'm sure that one of the major aspects is making the lives of Lithuanian companies easier in Brazil. So having a good contact with the consulate, because they know Lithuanian legislation, they know how you operate, they will be able to link, to make the bridge very well, because Brazilian partners do not know how Lithuanian companies operate, so they will not always be aware of potential problems. Where the General Consulate very quickly will learn of the differences in law, the differences in customs and practices, and will very likely be able to help you with that. So I think that's a very important partner to have.
Okay, thank you. And about partner, do you think to have partner is enough, or is it better to establish legal entity?
I think it depends on the case by case. If it's the first time you're operating outside Europe, for example, one of the things I meet sometimes also here in Denmark is because companies correctly have focused so much in the European market, which has been harmonized for so many years, they are a bit shocked when they get out of Europe and realize that not the whole world is harmonized in the same manner. So we operate in different ways. Of course, there are general trade principles which are obeyed and things that make sense anywhere, but the way to go about it is different outside Europe. So if you have not operated outside Europe before, it would be an advantage, yes, to have a Brazilian partner. This is a general affirmation, a general statement, so it's just a general recommendation, but simply because the laws are different. We're not harmonized with Europe, and Brazil is a very, very big market. Even if the per capita income is not high as most countries in Europe, we are almost 200 million people. So most Brazilian companies, they live their lives for the domestic market. Most of them do not export, but it means that they are experts in the Brazilian market. And it means that the outside company trying to enter, the expectation is that they learn our ways and not that we will learn your foreign ways. This has never been in the mind of the Brazilian market, because we are so big that we generally supply ourselves with all the faults that this has. So I think, at least to begin with, you should research the possibilities, the risks and the advantages of having a Brazilian partner, especially if you have not operated outside Europe before.
Thank you.
Yes?
Tai pasakykit, pakartosim.
Klausimas apie kokie yra skirtumai tarp Lietuvos verslo, tai yra darant verslo Brazilijoje ir Europoje, kur greičiausiai jau pažįsta Europos ar vidurio Europos.
I'll ask you to repeat because the sound is breaking. Can you please
what
start
are the
again?
differences between doing business in Brazil and Europe?
Well, basically what I'm saying, the legislation is quite different, quite different, but in Europe there has been, because of the European Union, there has been a great effort in harmonizing everything from fiscal law, how you taxes, from pensions, labor laws, the movement of people, everything there is a strong effort of harmonization, and the ministers of all fields meet every once in a while and try to decide what is European and what belongs to the national laws and how these national laws make sense together. So this means there has been a development in consensus somehow in Europe for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. That's not the case in countries like Brazil or China or India. They have their national laws, and they do not see and do not perceive the need of a harmonization per se to their domestic market. So it's not terribly different, but it is different. For example, what kind of costs are the responsibility of the employer, and what kind of costs are the responsibility of the employee in a labor relationship? What kinds, very simply like this, and the not knowing these particularities in labor law could very quickly create problems for an outside employer. And for example, in Brazil, you pay 13 salaries a year. There is a 13th salary, which every employer has to pay, and that's part of our labor laws. So if you do not pay the 13th salary, your employer will take you to court, and you get a huge fine, and you lose. That's one of the lose-lose situations. So things like this, which are very clear, and every Brazilian employer knows, but a foreign employer will not necessarily know this. So again, contributions, which are the obligation of the employer, how to collect taxes, which taxes we have in Brazil is a federative republic, which means that we have a federal government. It's a little bit like the United States. We have a federal government, then we have a state government from the states of Brazil, which are 27, and within the states we have a municipal, a local government. All these three governments have specific taxes which they collect, which are different. So a person that just arrives in Brazil, that has no idea of these three spheres of government, might be talking to the wrong official about a way to collect taxes. So having somebody that can at least teach you this very beginning will be a tremendous advantage, and will also leave you less anxious about not knowing what's really happening. So just a few examples, taxes and labor laws, which could be quite different. Again, I'll ask you to
yes, the question is about corruption or bribery.
Sorry?
Corruption. We see differences when we trade with Russia and Germany. We see big differences. And there is a question from audition about bribery in Brazil. What do you think?
That's very difficult to answer, because corruption is a two-way street. There may be officials asking for something they shouldn't have, but there are also private sector that do not want to pay what is due and do not want to follow the due course of the law, and they propose corruption. So corruption is a two-way street. And again, I think having a local partner will at least help you translating hidden proposals of corruption. In most cases, it shouldn't be necessary to pay anything. What I believe are things like, as a citizen, for example, if you want a driver's license, some people do not want to learn how to drive. They want to buy a driver's license wrongly, which is extremely corrupted and does not help society. But most people will be able to get a driver's license without having to pay anything rather than the normal fee. So it's not that you cannot move along in Brazil without paying corruption fees. It's not true. Most times, as a private person or as a private company, you can follow the correct side of the law and survive and have profits and be happy. So it's also how people see their citizenship and how they see their place in society. I believe that any company can correctly pay their taxes and fulfill the forms and register properly without having to pay any wrong amounts. To register as a company in Brazil, you go to the, which is our federal treasury, so to speak, where you register and you acquire a number from which you are a contributor to taxes, and you declare your taxes as a company or as a private person. It's quite simple. Now, what can be complicated, as I told you, we have three spheres of government, and they collect taxes in different manners. So once you know this, most of these things are now online, you pay online, and it's very straightforward. But to arrive and not knowing, and most of the things will be in Portuguese. As I said, Brazil is organized to the internal market, and very few things for the domestic market will be in English. Most things will be in Portuguese. So having a legal office or somebody that can translate this information for you, explain to you how you register in the different spheres of government is important. So arriving not knowing Portuguese can be difficult. And of course, if a foreigner not knowing Portuguese, not having a sound partner arrives in Brazil, maybe, yes, like in any place, some somebody may take advantage of that and try to extract undue fees, either a government official or a non-government official, somebody pretending to make your lives easier for you. So again, I would say, for example, going to a trade fair, assessing the Brazil Global Net website. Most of those partners in the Brazil Global Net are partners that are already operating with foreign companies. They are experienced in it, they speak better English, they may have material which is already translated, so they can make your lives easier. And they can help you avoiding any kind of what we call a tourist trap, or being asked for undue fees because you are a foreigner and you don't know what's necessary.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
One more question about language for communication. Does it common English language for the Brazilian companies, or Portugal is the main?
Portuguese is definitely the language, and if you can speak Portuguese, of course I think it's not very common, but that would be a tremendous advantage. But if you can find, if you do not speak Portuguese, if you can find somebody, it would actually help having an interpreter, somebody that speaks good English and good Portuguese and could help you along at least the beginning of entering the market. Depending on the sector, on the section, the niche, you will have Brazilians that speak very good English, but it's not everywhere. And it, for example, there will be very little material about the legal aspects in English. Everything, all the forms, all the websites from government officials, they are when they go to detail, they will be in Portuguese. Maybe they will have an opening page, a presentation page in English saying who they are. But once you want to go into more detailed information, legal aspects, labor aspects, specifics of which documents you need, very little of this will be translated. So it at least in the beginning, it makes a lot of sense to have an interpreter or somebody with you that speaks good English and good Portuguese. Once again, the General Consulate in São Paulo may be able to help you with this. The biggest Lithuanian community, or community of Lithuanian descendants in Brazil, is in the state of São Paulo. So you may even be as lucky as to have somebody that speaks Lithuanian and Portuguese that the General Consulate will know.
Thank you. One more question, just additional. What do you suggest? If I find a partner in Brazil, I would like to check if he's reliable or not. What do you suggest to do for me? Where to apply?
Well, there are a few ways. For example, we have associations of producers in the different fields. So you can ask for information from the association in different fields. If you go to a trade fair, you can gather. This is research, so there is no like go to one place and see if they are sound or not. Of course, you can see, for example, if a company is bankrupt, if the owner of the company has a bad reputation in the market. There's several lists from tax officials and so on that will tell you if the company or the owner of the company has had trouble or has been operating wrongly before. So we have what we call official blacklists, and having a partner in Brazil, they could tell you, or at least contacting a legal office, they could tell you how to assess these lists, because they of course will be in Portuguese. So this will give you if that company or that owner has a bad past, which is quite important when you're operating. But often in trade fairs, you will also hear the reputation. You're talking to people, you can hear about the reputation of different companies or intermediaries, and this comes a lot through word of mouth. Associations from the sectors normally gather the sound companies. Once again, the companies which are registered in the Brazil Global Net, are companies that are operating with foreign partners, and they tend to have a better reputation. And once they have a bad reputation, generally eliminated from that list. So none of this is 100% sure, but going through these steps will increase your chances of having a good, efficient partner.
Okay. Thank you very much. So thank you for your speech and for your remarks, and have a good day.
Yes, I will just finish by giving you the 2 websites I mentioned, but if it's too difficult for you to write down, I will email this information again. I emailed previously to the JCI a few links of manuals that you could download about how to invest, how to export, how to invest in Brazil. I'll just show it to you. Is a very I don't know if it's a very thick book. So it is like 300 pages thick. It's called The Legal Guide for the Foreign Investor in Brazil. So it is something that if you have the patience to go through this, it has everything from environmental laws to criminal sanctions. It's in very good English. This is an old version, but the link which I sent is the newest version, updated with all the laws. So although it will not answer all your questions, it's a very good beginning to understand. So this is a link which I sent last week, and I couldn't send you the PDF file because it was extremely heavy to send on the email, but I sent you the link, and I think it is a quite useful guide. I can repeat this again, all this information. And then the website is called www.brazil, but with an S, not with a Z. Brazil with an S, global net altogether, .gov, which is for government, .br for Brazil. Once you go into this website, they will ask you to register to access the information, but the register is very simple. It's email address and name. It doesn't have any particular excess of information required for you to register. In there, you can both look for potential exporters, potential investments, importers by a name of product. You can also download guides, a catalog of trade fairs for this year, and soon the 2014 catalog will come out. You can download information about each state in Brazil. You can also download, I'm almost certain you can download this legal guide there, but if not, I will send you I'll repeat the link again. And there's a lot of information. It's all in English, so that makes it easier. And from there, if you have more questions, we will do our best to answer or to direct you to who could answer them. However, very specific questions, some of these local government issues, for example, you would have to talk to a local government official in the city or in the state where you are settling. So that's why in your mission in Brazil, you could use the opportunity to talk to local officials or the general consulate in São Paulo to get more information. The second website that I'd like to tell you is the website of our embassy here. It's without the www, it starts straight. It's Copenhagen, but written in Portuguese. So it's COPENHAGUE, Copenhagen, which is how we write Copenhagen in Portuguese. Then it's the name of our ministry. I'll spell it. It's ITAMARATY. It's a long name. If you have, I'll repeat all of this in writing to the Chamber of Commerce. .gov for government. .br. Our website has, of course, the contacts to the embassy. So, for example, if you need to legalize papers, to take to Brazil. We are the entity that will be able to legalize some of these papers for you. Also, if you need a visa to do business, or if later on you need a working permit, some of this will be done in Brazil, but the visa will be issued here at the embassy. So in our website, you can read about the kinds of visas and how to go about them. And also we have a small link to trade sections, which again has links to all these books and manuals and guides. I will once again send all these links in writing if it was difficult for you now to write them down. And we are available to answer any other questions, either me or the technical assistant that works with trade here at the embassy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.